Hello, welcome to the first tutorial movie in Photoshop. This is going to be the Path tutorial movie. The next one actually is going to show how to finish the first assignment, but this one is key to you drawing the shapes that you are going to have to draw as I show you this first. When you ultimately finish this assignment, you are going to do this particular product. You're just going to use the product, but you're going to alter the color. Okay, you're not going to paint the car yet. But I'm going to turn off this car and I'm going to show you something. All of these paths that I have drawn here on this one down here, Brian Sheet Metal Combined Path, which you will see later, you have to execute. You're going to have to draw every one of those shapes out. And to draw all of those shapes out, you're going to have to do it with articulation. You're going to have to take every one of those shapes. Let me put this way back in opacity so you can see, barely see the car underneath there. I want you to get good at drawing right away in this class. But it's not just the drawing that I want you to get good at. It's understanding the pen tool. And to understand the pen tool, you have to understand this. You have to understand how to make shapes and how Photoshop handles paths. Paths are broken into four kinds of paths. An add path, which they call an add to path area, fills inside the shape. That one's fairly easy. So no matter how many paths you make on a page, on a canvas, if the paths are in the same path, it's not a layer, I'm going to hesitate to call that a layer. If they're in the same path, you can multiple shapes in one path. If they're all add paths, they'll simply fill and use the outside as the border. So it'll just fill inside the shape or shapes. What's a subtract path? Well, it's just the opposite. It fills outside the shape. By inert property, by initial property, a subtract path does not recognize the shape. It eliminates that, and it fills outside that shape. What's an intersect shape? Automatically, when you take the third icon in options and you click the intersect icon and you fill it, it recognizes where those shapes overlap. And finally, what's an exclude shape? The overlap section in the exclude shape becomes nothing. It only fills where they don't overlap. So, to get this done, I've given you, I'm not going to ask you to do, I'll make a point here as I go through. I give you four specific sets of directions. But the first four things that I show you right here, the add result, the subtract result, the intersect result, and the exclude result are based on, let me turn on this white background, are based on the paths overlapping. So this path was an add path. It was made with the icon on the first one so that it's an add icon. Watch. If I select this one over here on the right and I marquee, and I go to the P for pen tool and I marquee it, this path will highlight. It was created by an add path. Now if I click on the subtract path and I highlight the subtract path, notice how I am selected on the subtract path. The second icon selected. If I go to the intersect path and I highlight those points, the third one is selected. Did you know there was actually four and what they do? I need you to know those. So this one would actually only fill in this area. How come? Because that's where they intersect. Now let's go to the fourth one. The exclude one, when I actually marquee it, is the fourth icon. That will fill over to this side, this upside down L, and this right hand side backwards L will fill, not the shape in the middle. So normally people draw with the exclude path selected, because what does the exclude path do? The first shape it draws becomes an add path, meaning it'll fill inside the shape. The second shape it draws, if it overlaps the first shape, that will be a subtract part of it. If it is all within the first shape, like a donut, then that whole first inside shape will be subtract. It'll have a subtract property. Then, therefore, when you fill it, you'll get a donut-looking shape with a hole in it. But this is unique, because I want to highlight this exclude path. What Photoshop did was they made this one an add path right there, but then this one, from here to here, this is a subtract shape right there. This is an add shape. How did that? I have no idea, except it knew where it overlapped. It's just simple mathematics, I guess. Now, what you have to do, and let me open up this next one. This next one is essentially, I have done what you have to do. You have to make 4 layers that don't look like the blue layers. I'm not asking you to make this add result, this subtract result, and this intersect result, and this exclude result using the 4 paths that I'm highlighting. You have to use and make these bottom 2. So what I want to do is I want to go back to the first one, and I want to make this one. Notice how each time I make this red shape here, I save the selection. Notice how when I make, let me click back up to the RGB image. Notice how when I made the subtract shape, this one, I saved the selection. Okay, let me click back up to the RGB image. So let's now go back to the first one and do exactly what you have to do. I don't tell you how to do the fourth one. You have to figure it out. Okay, I will kind of say it on screen here because I don't think it's fair that I didn't, but let me go back to it. So let me go back to here, and let's now do the first one. So what I want to do, if you read your assignment on the second page, it said to add the shapes together. So remember, we're only playing with the add upper and the add lower shape. So to add them together, I've given you the key clicks. First, we are going to make a layer, and we're going to call it add, what did I call it? Add Brian. Oh yeah, I want you to rename yours. Okay, so whatever your first name is, whatever. You command click the first one. See how I command clicked it? Now you command and you hold the shift key and you add the second one to it. Now go up into select, save selection, and name it add. If your first name is Brian, fine. If your name, oh, that's Bran. I probably should eat some of that. And let me go, okay, now I've made my first one. Now I'll choose a color, I'll make it red again. And let's just go Option, Delete, and fill it. Now let's deselect, save as on the file, add your name to it, but let's go to the second one. So now instead of just making a subtract shape, if you can see that it'll fill outside in the white area, let me turn this off. I actually want to name this subtract Brian, and I didn't make a space on that one. I really don't like spaces, but I'm gonna make a space on that because I can't stand how I don't have a space on there. Okay, now I usually don't want you to have spaces. Okay, I'm going to select the subtract Brian layer. I'm going to command click the first one and hold the Option key and subtract the second one. Let me say it again. This is an add path right there. So I'm command clicking an add path, and I am now going to command Option click an add path, which subtracts it from the other one. So command Option is to subtract, command Shift is to add. Now before you go any farther, select, save selection as subtract Brian. And now you have the subtract Brian shape. See it? Right there. Okay? Let me click back up to the RGB image. Now, let's fill this. Option delete so we have it all filled. Now let's go to the next one. I want the same stacking order that I had before. Let's call this one number 3 is Intersect Brian. Whoops. Okay, there's, spell the whole thing right. And now Photoshop came up with a way to take 2 add paths and intersect the middle. Let me turn this off. And now let me make sure I'm selected on the layer of Intersect Brian. Command click the first one, hold Option and Shift, and a little X appears. Okay, let me go back. I'm going to command click the first one, hold Command Option and Shift. Now look in the middle of the add, let me circle it right here. There's a little X that's appearing right in the middle of the icon. That's for intersect. Now when I select it, first I'm going to let go, and I'm just going to select that path so you can see it on the screen. I only want to fill this area that I'm highlighting. So I hold Command, Option, and Shift, which means to intersect, and I click it, and that's the shape I get. So I'll hit Option, Delete, and I will go to Select and save selection as Intersect Brian. Okay, now the last one. I did them in this order for a reason. Because you have to use your brain here. Your power, let me go E-X-C-L-U-D-E. Did I spell that right? E-X-C-E. Brian. Think about this. In order to use these two independent shapes, add upper and add lower, I want to, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, I shouldn't tell you on screen, but I'm going to add them together, and then I'm going to subtract the little thing right there from it. So let me click back up to the RGB image. So I Command click the add upper. Now how do you add another one together? You hold what key down? That's right, Shift. You add the add lower together, you get that shape. Now I want to subtract the middle area. Well, that shape is the middle area. Let me click back up to the RGB image. And let me hold Command, Option, and Shift and subtract the inside shape from it. Okay? And now... Whoops, I didn't mean that. I'm not thinking here. See, I told you have to think. I don't want to intersect it, for goodness sakes. I know all of you were telling me, Brian, don't intersect it. Just subtract it. Okay, so it's Command, Option to subtract. I was thinking 9 steps. Yeah, okay, you don't even believe me. I was thinking 9 steps ahead of me. So let me start over again. Command, click, add upper. Hold the Shift key. Command, click, add lower. Hold Command, Option, and subtract the channel, and you get the shape. Now let me go make sure I'm selected on the layer. Option, Delete to fill. Aha, I get the shape exactly that I want. Let's call this Exclude. If I could type, Exclude Brian. And now you are ready to just turn this one in and you're fine. And let me go now. See how you have add. Let me turn this off. Here's the intersect. Let me deselect. Here is the subtract, because I subtracted one from the other. And here's the add together. Now, let's see how well it matches the one that I did before. Here is, let me turn on the white background. I don't care if you have it on or off. Here's the add, subtract, the intersect, and the exclude. But it's not about getting this done right. That didn't sound logical. It did, but it didn't. It's about you understanding what you did to make it right. There is a difference, you know. Okay. From now on, I want you to put this, repeat this after I say it in your own head. When you use the pen, make sure you are on what icon up here should you be on. And I'm going to deselect everything. Pretend I just clicked the pen and I want to draw. Right now I would be in the intersect icon, and that wouldn't be right. I want to be in the exclude icon. So when I draw a shape just like this, watch. Look at the big, look at my shape, my work path right over there. This is a what shape. If I select that shape, it's a what shape. That's right. It's an add shape, meaning black will not fill, white will fill. Now, because I made it as an exclude icon, it has exclude properties. If I draw inside that shape, instead of this being a white fill, do you see how it's an automatic subtract shape? That looks like my brain, by the way. So if I were to command click that shape, and if I were to make a new selection, and if I were to fill it, it would fill exactly where I want to. How come I did that? Because I understand how paths work. So if I were to have created that, just please watch one more time. I'm going to click to the add icon. Most students work in the add icon. They make mistakes. They don't know why. So now watch this. Let me double click this and save it, and let me select away from it and start drawing again. Okay, here's my shape. A nice add shape, right? A nice add shape. Let's close the shape. Whoops, I missed. Let's close the shape. Okay, Now let's draw this shape. Okay, now look. How come these two are different? Look over here. What did I do to make a mistake? You tell me. This top one was drawn with my icon up here on what? Yes, it was on exclude, and it was the fourth one. This bottom one was incorrectly drawn because before I started drawing, the student who was on my machine last time had their icon on what? That's correct. It's add. So now you can go on to the rest of the assignment.